Hey guys, good morning and welcome. We are live. Welcome to this week of our Netready Facebook Live events. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for dedicating your time to us here at Netready, where each week we put informative content on the multi-level marketing space out to you across all of our channels. Again, thank you for your time. Today, we are joined. I didn't introduce myself.
No.
I'm Stuart Calder. I'm VP for Sales and Marketing here at Netready, and today we are joined by Richard Sletcher. Richard, how are you going?
No, very well, and I'm very impressed to see you got a belt.
Well, do you know what? No. I saw your belts, I saw the brown ones, and then I thought, I have to look as cool as you.
Exactly. What the hell?
So they got the same. But I know we always do the cross check to make sure that we are in check with our style.
Exactly.
But you got your dog shoes on today.
Yeah, I know. Just pathetic, isn't it? What the hell was I thinking?
It's okay. It's okay, because what we're about to speak about, it's going to make up for that.
Okay, cool.
So today we're talking about quite an interesting topic here, which is the 5 reasons to avoid multi-level marketing.
From a company's perspective.
Correct. Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
As a company.
Yeah.
Now,
so as a company, why to stay away from MLM?
Correct. Now we are serious advocates for MLM. We love MLM. We are big supporters.
But look, it's not for everybody.
Correct.
It's not for every company out there. Some companies, it just wouldn't work for them, and I think it's important to know whether to get into it or not. And so one of the reasons of putting this together today is to say, hey, listen, there are reasons to stay away from multi-level marketing, and they're valid and justified reasons. And
right.
And if you fall into the categories we're going to be discussing today, then this is not for you.
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Well, let's jump into this, and we've highlighted our key points that we want to discuss. And the first one that I would like to go into and just understand a little bit more is belief in multi-level marketing. So why do people have such a, or what is the reason that people don't believe in multi-level marketing?
Well, look, the issue around belief is that if you don't believe in something heart and soul, then you shouldn't be involved in it. And what I've seen is people actually, specifically MDs of companies, CEOs,
sure,
they see the multi-level marketing stuff. They've been involved on a very tertiary level, and they see these incredible numbers. But fundamentally, intrinsically in their being, they've either been conditioned to think or have been only made aware of illegal pyramid scams. So when they look at multi-level marketing, they are actually seeing it through the lens of this is actually unethical, immoral, illegal.
Yes.
And these guys are not stupid. These are intelligent people. I had this when we first got into MLM back in the sort of with Netready back in the sort of late 1990s, early 2000s. My sister-in-law, who's a SAP consultant, she's got degrees in commerce, she's got commercial degrees. She understands business backwards. And we nearly never spoke to each other because as far as she was concerned, getting involved in a multi-level marketing business was immoral, unethical, illegal.
Yeah.
She rarely had pictures of me going to jail because we're involved in multi-level marketing. And that's because that's where she saw it.
Yeah.
In her mind, that was what MLM was. A couple of years later, she read an article in Time magazine where they talked about big MLM companies like Amway and Avon and Tupperware and these kind of companies, and it changed her perspective. But at the time, that's what she thought. Now, what I've found in our industry is CEOs fundamentally believe this is unethical, immoral, illegal, or whatever, but they see how much money is being generated through these methods of doing business, through multi-level marketing as a route to market.
Well, the prime examples are the 3 that you just mentioned.
Exactly. Avon.
Avon, yeah.
Now, if you think Avon's an illegal, immoral, unethical scam, well, then you should definitely not get into multi-level marketing. But understand, Avon did $11 billion last year. $11 billion. They've got millions of people in their team around the world who are putting food on the table and a roof over their heads through Avon.
They actually have 6 million.
6 million people. 6 million people who are involved in Avon.
Right.
Now, Avon's up there with IBM and Apple, and they're like in the top 100 companies in the world.
Right.
Now, if they were doing something immoral, unethical, illegal, obviously, they wouldn't be up there. They wouldn't be listed on the stock exchange.
Yeah.
So when you look at this, the first thing you've got to ascertain is, do you believe in this intrinsically? Now, if you don't believe in it, there's a term for people who sell something they don't believe in. Do you know what it is?
a con artist.
Con artist. That's it. So if you're selling something you don't believe in, you're a con artist. So what happens is our clients come to us. They don't intrinsically believe in MLM. So now they start hedging. They say, "Are we going to call this an affiliate program?"
Right.
And so you become an affiliate. It's not multi-level marketing, but they're not BSing anybody. Everybody gets involved knows it's an MLM play. Everybody who gets involved understands that they obviously don't believe in it. Otherwise, they would be wearing it proudly as a badge.
Yeah.
And so they come in and they try to hedge it. Oh, no, we're going to call our people affiliates, or we're going to call our people, whatever, so that we are not associated with MLM. And they don't want to tell any of their mates that they've started an MLM business because they're ashamed that they're in MLM space. But they want the volumes that MLM generate.
Right.
And I say to people, listen, if you are not 100% sold on being in the MLM space, if you don't believe heart and soul in this way of doing business, then don't get into it, because you've got to sleep at night. And if you're doing something you don't believe in, you're going to feel unhappy and it will bomb, guaranteed.
Right.
If you can't go out and tell people with pride what you're doing, then why are you doing it? So I say to people, specifically clients who come to us, listen, you've got to believe in this thing. Now, if you don't believe in it, you've got two options. Don't get into it. That would be the first thing. Or number two, get yourself educated.
Yes.
Because if you understand how MLM works, if you understand the benefits and how this thing plays out and how many people get helped around the world and how many people MLM has saved around the world, and the strategies that are used to use some of the cash for the social side of it, if you understood that, you'd believe in it. And so you need to go in and study the Avon model, study it in depth, find out how they're doing it. Why are they so successful? How come they got 6 million people? Have a look at Tupperware, seeing how they're doing it. Go and have a look at the Amway play. And don't look at it from the point of view of some twit invited you to an Amway meeting and didn't tell you it was Amway and lied to you. And that is not Amway's fault.
Yeah.
That's the twit that invited you to the Amway meeting. Go and have a look at Amway from the point of view of their products and their compensation plan and their incentive strategies and the social responsibility strategies they've got there and how they recognize their members and how they've built an $11 billion business. Go look at it from a business owner's point of view and see what they've done. It's not the twit who invited you to a meeting and said that it wasn't Amway.
Right.
That's not who you need to focus on. Focus on how they're doing it.
Yeah.
Get yourself educated, because once you understand this industry, you'll never go back to doing anything else. That I guarantee you. But you have to fundamentally believe and trust it from the beginning in order to get involved in it. So again, going back to the original thing, if you don't believe, stay out of it.
Yeah.
Don't get involved.
Well, so this is the thing, Richard. There's a key point that you mentioned there is education. You used your sister-in-law, right, as an example, where in her heart or in her mind, she believed that this was an illegal industry that you're involved in.
She thought it was a pyramid scam.
Until she was educated through Time magazine, which, you need a little bit more of a credible, or more credibility, more source of information, more, to understand heart and soul, and with your head to go, well, this is actually an industry that I want to be involved in.
Yeah.
So, educate, now if we had to speak to the CEOs, and we have a number of CEO level conversations, and they say the same thing. Guys, well, is this not an illegal pyramid?
Yeah.
Because they don't understand, they haven't been educated. So would your guidance then be to go and look at this top performing MLM companies across the planet and see what they're currently doing to be successful legal entities?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would do.
Yeah.
There's books on the subject. There's obviously, a huge resource is the MLM for CEOs channel. What we're doing is we're comparing multi-level marketing to what's out there in the world. We're trying to help. It's a free resource. It doesn't cost you anything to go there. And we're putting content out every single week to try and help people understand why this is an incredibly good method of doing business. And if you were A couple of weeks ago, we did this why retail companies are the most unethical, illegal pyramid scam on the planet.
Yeah.
And we talked about how you've got this pyramid where there's the CEO at the top, there's the board of directors, there's the shareholders, and everybody else in the organization is being milked for all they're worth to try and make the CEO rich, to try and make the chairman rich or the board of directors rich.
Mm-hmm.
They're milking everybody, and that's a pyramid.
Yeah.
Because there's only one guy at the top, and there's, you know, your pickers and packers and till operators and all of that. That's the massive bottom of the pyramid, and the suppliers. So they've got this pyramid structure, which is, in my opinion, unethical and immoral and should be illegal. And so if you have a look at that and say to yourself, okay, where would I rather be involved? In a retail conglomerate where it's obvious that everybody's being milked so that the shareholders and chairman can be rich, or in a space like this where everybody has the opportunity to get to chairman level,
Right.
where everybody has the opportunity to grow their business,
Yes.
where everybody has the opportunity to earn what they're worth. You know,
All
and
based on the hard work and activity they put in.
exactly. All based on how much they're prepared to learn about the industry
Yeah.
and how much effort they put in.
Yeah.
And I say to people who earn nothing from multi-level marketing, because there's a lot of stories out there, and that's what fuels this belief that's an illegal pyramid scam. People say, oh, I joined this company and I tried it and it was a total waste of time.
Yeah.
I didn't earn any money. And I
Yeah.
say to them, listen, if you didn't earn money, there's only one or two reasons. One, you joined the wrong business.
Yes.
In other words, you weren't discerning in terms of what company you joined. Number two, you did nothing. And if you earn nothing, 9 times out of 10 is because you're worth nothing. You didn't do the work. You didn't put in the effort. You think you can go and earn, let's say you're earning $1,000 a month, just small. If somebody was paying you $1,000 a month, you would be working 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Okay? Now you come along, you think you're going to earn $1,000 a month out of multi-level marketing working 8 minutes a day. Well, obviously that's not going to happen. You need to put in the work. So the thing is, from a company, from a CEO perspective, you've got to realize that a lot of people have got a wishbone, no backbone. They want the big income, they want the residual money, but they're not prepared to put in the work. From a CEO perspective, that's not a reason to think this is an illegal pyramid scam. So again, going back to the belief, educate yourself, make sure that you're locked in, heart and soul.
Yeah.
Because once you understand this industry and once you believe in it, it's a fantastic industry to be in. But if you don't believe in it, it's just going to be pain all the way.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that's reason one.
Beautiful. We've covered
Stay
it.
away from MLM if you can't believe
Can't
in
believe.
it. Yeah.
And if you already like MLM, educate yourself on MLM so that you do believe in it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
heart
I
and
love
soul.
it. I mean, you always it's all about believing mentally, and then actually just believing about it in here. 100% confident that when you go speak to your sister-in-law, that you know that is exactly what the industry is supposed to be in.
Yeah, and the thing is that if you speak to your sister-in-law and you're in doubt, then she's going to swing you,
Right.
and you'll be off the.
Yeah.
You know, you'll think actually, yeah, you know, she's right. This
right,
is an
yeah.
illegal pyramid scam. I shouldn't be involved, and that'll be the end of it. You know.
I heard something the other day that said, work on your own goals internally until you go to the point where you implement those goals. Because speaking to people outside, there's too much outside influence that are going to take you off track of the things that you're focused on and the things that you believe on.
Yeah, and when you're speaking to people, speak to people who know. You know, don't speak to people who've got an opinion based on ignorance.
Yes.
Speak to people who know.
Yeah.
And the Direct Selling Association will put you in touch with people who know. I promise you, if you speak to any companies in the MLM space, they would actually talk to you about why this is an amazing business. They are very giving in that way. And as I say, there's books, etc. on the subject.
Okay. Let's go into the second point, which
Okay, what is that?
what type of people need to get involved in multi-level marketing businesses. So if you are not a certain type, then you need to avoid it. But what are those types?
Well, multi-level marketing is a combination of two things. One, there's a traditional business, and that is a normal, standard business where you manufacture products, you warehouse them, you pick them, you pack them, you ship them. It's a normal business. You've got staff, all of that. But then you add to that an army of volunteers. Now, the average MLM company, the average has got 30,000 active members.
Yeah.
So you got to be a people person. You absolutely have to love people. if you think that you've got any leverage over these people, you're mistaken. You've got no leverage over them. They will be part of your business because they like you, trust you, and want to do business with you. Okay? And if they don't like you and trust you, then they won't do business with you.
Yeah.
So you've got to be the kind of person that people gravitate towards. Now, if you're not that person, you're not dead in the water.
Yeah.
You have to hire that person. But either way, you've got to have somebody that in your company who is 100% people person. Because this business, they're volunteers. If they don't like you, they leave. Amway is desperate to recruit your people. It doesn't matter what product you're selling. You're not competing with them on product.
Right.
You're competing with them on opportunity. And if they don't like you, if they don't trust you, if they don't know who you are and know that you've got their best interests at heart, they're gone.
Yeah.
So it's a key thing to be a people person. Now, the problem that we've had with many of our CEOs over the years is CEOs are A-type personalities.
Yes. Right.
And they are a make it happen, do it yourself, but generally fairly insular type people. And what they like to do is they like to dish out instructions. And you can't do that with a network.
No, because they'll just look for the next shiny thing.
Exactly. So you've got to nurture. You can't just instruct. So if you're not nurturing these people, they disappear. Now, most of the CEOs we deal with aren't those kind of people. They're not nurturers by nature. They make it happen, guys. You know, you walk into their business, they've got everything nailed down. It's all about the detail. It's all about the bottom line. It's all about the money. They're working their people to death. And if you don't do what I tell you, you're fired, or I'm not giving you a raise, or whatever. And that doesn't work in the MLM space at all.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, if you have a look at the most successful people in the MLM space, it's normally teachers and women. So those are the kind of people that you know, people who are people. They
nurture,
nurturers.
they care.
They care.
Right.
They're prepared to train you. They want to help you. And so if you're not a people person and you can't find a people person, then this is not the space to be in. Then rather focus on the traditional retail mechanisms, get your product out that way.
Yeah. Okay. So your role as a people's person, and are you the CEO of the business, and can you be the CEO of the business and then control the whole network? Because there comes to a point where inspiring the network and growing this network to where your top leadership then takes over as running the network. However, there still needs to be that key people's person that manages a relationship with those, let's say, 10 key top leadership people.
Well, exactly. So you got 20 key leaders. Now, understand that if you've got 30,000 people and you've got 10 key leaders, on average, they got 3,000 people each.
Yeah.
On average. Now, you irritate one of them. When they leave, they don't leave by themselves. They don't say, hey, listen, there's my team. I'm leaving. No, they take those 3,000 people and they push off with all 3,000 of them.
Yeah.
So you irritate 5 or 10 of your people and you've only got 5 or 10. What happens is 5 or 10 of them push off to Amway.
Yeah.
And that's the end of your business.
Yeah.
So initially you are finding the people on the ground. You're looking for those leaders, those diamonds in the rough. Okay? And then once you establish who those diamonds are, as they grow in your business, you work with them. They work with their team. But you've got to absolutely lock them in. They've got to love you. You know, we've got Tembela, who runs a company called Umgalelo here in South Africa, and his people love him. They worship the ground he walks on. But he's such a people person. He's so warm and he's so engaging that they'll do anything for him.
Yeah.
And the chances of them leaving him are 0 to nothing. We've got another client who's got a very fiery temperament. She's very enthusiastic but very fiery. And she's lost 3/4 of her network. She built it up on adrenaline, but now when it comes to looking after them, they're abandoning ship because they're not getting on with her.
Yeah.
So as I say, either you need to be the people person, the nurturer, or you need to stay the hell out of it.
Yes.
And get a people person.
Right.
And let them nurture them.
Okay.
So I mean, it's like you and I.
Yes.
I'm the A-type personality. And we won't mention what A stands for.
No, we won't.
And you're the people person. You're the nurturer.
Yeah.
Everybody loves you. You know what I mean? So for me, I have to stay the hell out of Dodge while you deal with the with the clients.
Right.
You know, so it's the same kind of thing. You know, you've got to recognize in this stage what your strengths are. So,
Sure.
as I say, you've got to be a people person for this business.
Okay, cool. So we've covered 2 points now. Let's get into the third one, which is the business experience. Now, do we need to have business, what type of business experience do we need to have? Do we need to have it within multi-level marketing?
No, because remember the business has got two sort of legs to it. You've got the traditional running of a business,
Right.
and then you've got the network. Now, what happens is a lot of people go and get their spreadsheet out, and they start doing 2, and they recruit 2, you've got 4, and then you've got 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 5, 12, 1,244, 7,656. Man, let's go shopping for Porsches.
Your math is quick.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Good, eh? So they look at the exponential growth of these businesses, which they do. They grow exponentially very quickly, but they think that that's the business. But the reality is that behind that growth, there's an entire company to run. And if anybody's ever run a company, they know that this is not a simple process. You've got to understand how to run the business. You've got to understand how to look after all the moving parts, how to do the accounting, how to make sure that the cash flow is looked after, how to employ staff, how to fire staff if you need to. What do those contracts look like? Now, if you've never run a business, then this is not the right business to start with.
Sure.
Because now you're trying to learn about business and you're trying to learn about the network. And those are 2 worlds apart. So, you know, I wouldn't start on this if you don't have any business experience. I think that having business experience is critically important. Now, if you've got capital, then you can buy business management. Just like you can get a people person to run the network, you can buy a general manager to actually run the company. Those people are out there, they've done their MBAs,
Right.
they know how to run businesses. You get them in, you make them the general manager, you make sure that they understand what you're trying to do from a business perspective, and they run the business for you. And then, if you're not a people person as well, you hire somebody who's going to actually run the network. So now you've got your business manager, you've got your network, and you can actually sit back and make sure things happen correctly. But if you're not a business person, then this is a very, very bad business to try and learn your skills on. Yeah.
Further experience, would you need to have had your own time as a network marketer and understanding the industry and understanding what the network is interested in, understanding what motivates and drives them, understanding the daily activities, how to recruit, how to approach, how to present the business opportunity, all of those things. To run a multi-level marketing business, you may be a solid business person and having run traditional companies, but do you need the experience brought up through the network to actually run the network?
Look, that's hugely helpful. And we've had a couple of clients who've failed. And something I always tell them is, have you ever been part of a network marketing business? Oh, yes, I have. I joined this one, and I joined that one, I joined that one, I joined that one. Fantastic. Were you successful in any of them? No.
Yeah.
Well, what makes you think that now you're going to add all of the stress of running a company to the mix, and now suddenly you're going to be successful at recruiting people?
Right.
If you couldn't recruit people for highly successful companies like the Amways and the Herbalifes and the GNLDs and the Tupperwares and the Avons, if you couldn't be successful where the entire infrastructure's been done for you, what on earth makes you think you're going to be successful now when you've got to run that infrastructure and the network? You know? So again, you know, having run a business before is critical to actually understanding this. And then, as you say, part of the business is understanding how multi-level works and educating yourself on how to build a network, what's supposed to happen. And again, if you're not, going back to the people person, if you're not that person, hire one. If you're not a business manager, hire one.
Right.
You know, then you need cash, obviously capital to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, I think having business experience is critically important. And as a matter of fact, if you have a look at our big successes, these are all people who've run big businesses before. They've either got big businesses, like Avox Telecoms, or they've run businesses before. And even some of them, and we've got clients who had train smashers in their previous businesses, but understand how the business mechanisms work and have learnt, done paid their dues, learned their lessons there,
Yes,
and now
yeah.
suddenly are able to switch this thing on and
Right.
make it happen.
Okay. So would your guidance then be to avoid MLM if you have no business experience and no experience of being in the network?
And no cash to buy the people.
And no capital.
Yeah, well,
Of course.
Yeah.
So,
and a good business, what does a good business manager cost you?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not cheap to get
No.
a good person. And I can tell you right now, a good networker,
yeah,
also not cheap.
yeah.
So you've got to have some, if you're going to hire those people, then you've got to have the capital
Right.
to do it, yeah.
Hiring a network marketer, is that someone that you pay a salary to, or is it someone that you can actually put into the top of your network to
No,
drive
you
the
pay
network?
them a salary. You
Okay.
never put them in the top of the network.
Okay.
That becomes so ridiculously expensive, and you've got no leverage over them at all. And you actually, the person who's running the network, you need to have leverage over them.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you're paying them a salary, they've got to do what you tell them. You don't want them suddenly thinking that they can move their network to somebody else. Now
Right.
they own your whole network. Now they decide to go to Amway and they
Yeah.
just pull your whole
Everything's
network. with
gone.
them. So, they've got inside information in the business. You don't want them competing with the network. You want them to help every person in the whole network equally, not just the people in their team or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So you actually want them to be employed by the company.
Right.
Same as the management of the company. As a matter of fact, in the terms and conditions that we've written up, that we give to our clients, we stipulate in those T's and C's that not one single member of your staff should be allowed to be in the team, and their families may not be in the network either.
Yeah.
Because what you don't want to have, you don't want to muddy the waters here. And the 50 people who are associated with your business, they're not going to make or break your company. So you keep them out of it. Them and their families don't get involved. You
Yeah.
focus only on external people
Right. Yeah.
and get them into the business.
Okay. Beautiful.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's move into
Another
point.
sip of coffee. What
Please
do. You say?
do. Let's move into point number 4, which is that of discipline. Okay, and having discipline when we've seen these businesses. I mean, it's not a traditional business where you experience this linear growth. It's a multi-level marketing business where you experience exponential growth. We got this is my favorite move that you do.
Oh, yes.
By the way, yeah. And
Well, it's actually an S curve, so we should do this nice.
yeah,
little-
yes, yeah. We can saber over it. We'll go off screen, but we'll get there. What discipline do you need to have?
Well, the first and most important one is fiscal discipline. So we've actually seen at least 2 companies that we've been involved in crash due to a lack of fiscal discipline. So an example is what happens is these businesses within record time, I mean, within 7-8 months, are doing sort of $2, $3, $4 million a month turnover.
Yeah.
Now suddenly you've got, say, $4 million a month turnover coming in. After costs, etc., you've got $2 million sitting in the bank, and you think, well, after 6 months, you suddenly got, maybe $10 million sitting in the bank.
Yeah.
And so you start thinking, wow, I'm rich. And so you go and have a look at the latest Ferrari, and we've had this.
Yeah.
And so you buy a Ferrari, and your partner buys the Lamborghini, and then you go and buy yourself a big mansion because, Malibu seems like a cool place to live, and your partner buys a big mansion, and you spend all of this money that's sitting in the bank, and then next month your business goes from what it was doing now, which is $2 million a month, it suddenly goes to $8 million a month because you've got this incredible exponential curve, and now you've got no cash. Your cash is all tied up in stupid things which don't benefit you. And it's tempting. When you're earning this big money, you walk past that sports car, and you've been wanting it your whole life. I remember one of our clients saying, I said to him, why do you go and buy a sports car? He said, because I deserve it. Well, 3 months later, his business was gone.
Yeah.
And his business was gone because he didn't have the cash flow to fund the growth. Now, you can fund the growth in this business out of cash flow because it's a cash upfront business. The money comes into the bank, and you're getting 2 or 3 times more money than what the stock is costing you. So you can double or triple your stock every month. So you can bootstrap the business and you can grow on cash flow. But you take the cash out of the business, and suddenly you don't have the cash flow to fund the growth. And when you start getting heavy growth, suppliers are very nervous to give you $10 million worth of stock, and they start saying, we want the money up front because the risk is so high. And so you then have to give them the money up front. You don't have the money in the bank because it's sitting in a Ferrari, and that's the end of the business because you can't get stock. And once your people see you running out of stock and that you can't meet your commitments, they're gone. Remember, you got no leverage over them.
Yeah.
They pack their stick and bundle, they're off to Amway with the entire team. So I think that having discipline, especially fiscal discipline,
Yes.
is critical.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's enormously frustrating for me to see guys go and do, as you know, we've lost 2 major companies to this
Yeah.
exact scenario. And the other thing that I just need to point out while we're on the subject of discipline, if you've got a whole bunch of networkers who are out there, and this is hard, it's not easy doing networking,
Yeah.
and these guys are struggling and they've rolled up their sleeves and they're working at this business and they're pumping the sales and they're trying to build up their business, and you go out and buy a Ferrari, what is the impression of what's going on here?
Sure.
You set completely the wrong tone,
Yeah.
you know? And so suddenly you're driving around in a fancy Porsche, Ferrari, whatever, and your people are thinking to themselves, oh, I'm working my guts out here, and this fat cat is sitting driving a Ferrari.
Yeah.
And that again,
Yeah.
you know, is complete. So these businesses generate enormous amounts of cash. But I say that wait until you've been going sort of 3 to 5 years and this business is rock solid, and that you've gone through the S-curve and you're at the top of the S-curve and it's much more linear in nature, because you can't grow exponentially forever.
Yes.
It doesn't happen.
It's impossible.
So now you're in the linear phase of your business. You know that the business is ticking over beautifully. Everything is perfectly in place. Your staff is in place. Everything is working perfectly. Now if you've got some extra cash, fine. Go and buy yourself a fancy car. But yesterday, I would say that at least the first 5 years, drive a Beetle.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you can find one.
Wow. The first 5 years, drive a Beetle. That's a perfect line.
Yeah.
So we've got our fiscal discipline. Okay. What about discipline in terms of your work ethic? I mean, you talked about rolling up the sleeves.
Yeah.
You talked about. I mean, this is an activity that you have to work at from the moment that you wake up to the moment that you rest your head on your pillow, every single day.
Yeah.
Because this is what you did, and your first company that you
Acorn
launched,
Kids.
Acorn Kids, when you went out, and it was work ethic.
So we were running the business. It was my wife and I. And so she was doing the picking and the packing of the orders. So I would get into work at 8 o'clock in the morning. I would help pick and pack. I would be doing opportunity meetings throughout the day, seeing people. My network would bring people into the office, and I would personally do the opportunity meetings. Almost every single evening, I was out in people's homes doing workshops with them, color workshops, showing people the products, selling the products. On weekends, I was at the fetes and the sort of local fairs with my people, seeing how they were doing. So I was probably working, 60, 70 hours a week, maybe more, on the business.
Wow.
Obviously, we were massively successful.
Yeah.
The business grew. We signed up 10,000 people, all selling bubble baths. But the bottom line is that didn't come easy, and I had to have that work ethic, and that goes back to the discipline side.
Yeah.
You know, if you think that 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, boom, we're going to make millions, that's not how it happens. This is a tough business, like any business.
Yeah.
And you've got to work your guts out. So you have to have the work ethic, and that's back to discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Discipline in educating yourself as well.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, when I was doing this every day, every night I'd get into bed with a book and I would be reading about MLM and how I could make the business better.
Yeah.
So how could I recruit people? How do I run incentives? All of that stuff. I was reading books every single night to make sure I knew what the hell was going on in the business. So there's a whole discipline involved in end to end on this. Yeah.
I was thinking we can actually have a whole Facebook Live events just focused on discipline and all the areas in which you need to have discipline.
Yeah.
There we go. Maybe we can
and
do
if you don't have it,
it.
if you know intrinsically you don't have the discipline to do this, then again, this would be a good reason not to get into MLM.
Sure.
You know, stay out of it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the fifth and final element, which is that of the product, and not having the right product for the space. Our agreements in place, which we're going to get into. Let's just dive into that product.
Okay, so you got to have a compelling product.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're selling a product that is not worth the money you're asking for, and you can't justify the price, then you don't have a business. So having the right product is critical, and it can be any category. It doesn't matter. You can sell anything from insurance policies to speedboats.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
as long as it's a compelling product.
Yes.
So people have got to want it.
Right.
Okay. So let's assume you've got a compelling product. The key things here is that you've got 3 issues that you've got to be able to guarantee. The first of all, you've got to have continuity of price.
Right.
So whoever's supplying you the product or whoever's supplying you the raws to manufacture a product, you have to have an agreement in place that guarantees that the price is not going to fluctuate drastically. Because if you start pushing the price around with your network, they're gone. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you've got to have continuity of quality. You've got to make sure that whoever's supplying you the product, you've nailed them down that the product is of a high quality and will remain as the high quality, and they won't change out the raws for something that's cheaper to make more margin.
Yeah.
But the big one is scale. Now, these businesses grow at an incredibly fast pace. And so whoever's supplying your product, whoever's manufacturing your product, even if it's you got to make sure that if you do $1 million this month and $4 million next month and $10 million the month after, that you have got the ability to scale with that. Because when the business goes, look, if the business fails, then it doesn't matter what product you have.
Sure.
Doesn't matter what contracts you have. So we don't worry about that side of things. What we worry about is if the business is successful. And understand there's only 2 kinds of MLM businesses. There's the ones that tank and the ones that go exponentially. There isn't really a place for MLM businesses that are growing in a linear fashion. They just don't seem to do that.
Yeah.
So you can't rely on that as being the norm.
Yes.
If this thing succeeds, it's going to go vertical. You are going to sell a shed load of product, and you absolutely have to know that you can meet the demand. And you can't think, oh, well, I mean, we had one client. They said to me, they're selling insurance policies. They said, no, this year we only plan to sign up 2,000 people. I said, in the whole year? Yeah, no, we're going to control it. We're going to control the growth. I said, how are you going to do that? No, we're going to restrict it to just Cape Town. I said, you're not going to control it. This thing is going to go ballistic. And I said to them, part of what we've got a lot of problems with in South Africa with insurance policies, because you've got a lot of rules that come into play. So when you actually speak to a client, you have to tie them down. You have to say, there's a whole lot of compliance rules. These are the terms, and you've got to speak to them. The sale has to happen with a person who's trained. So they said, no, don't worry, we've got a team of people sitting there. I said, look, this thing's going to be ballistic. Can you scale your call center to deal with all the calls that are going to come in? No, don't worry, we're a big company. We know what we're doing. I said, you've never seen anything like this. You need to make sure that this thing is going to scale. No, don't worry, we've got it all nailed down. You stop worrying about that. That's our business. We know what we're doing. Okay, well, 90 days we signed up 10,000 people, sold 20,000 policies. They were in chaos. They couldn't scale their call center, and they're a big company. Couldn't scale the call center.
Yeah.
Couldn't get enough people in the seats to deal with it. So even though the demand was there, they couldn't close the deals. And it created so much chaos in their business that they eventually closed the channel down. So understand that understanding how this business can grow, critical, and knowing, not thinking, knowing that if we get 20,000 sales in 90 days, that we've got a mechanism to deal with that. That our manufacturers can put out 20,000 units, or that we can close 20,000 deals, or that our call center can handle 20,000 people calling. And remember, for 20,000 sales, you can bet your bottom dollar that there were 3 or 4 phone calls per person.
Yeah, sure.
So suddenly you've got 60, 100,000 phone calls coming into your call center. You see the problem that you've got there, and it created chaos. Now, the same thing happened with one of our clients. Let me put it on my particular thing. I had 3 months of stock in Acorn Kids sitting on the shelf. 3 months. I thought, more than enough. We sold all 3 months of stock in 1 week. Okay, now the problem was twofold. One, I didn't have a proper agreement with the company, the supply in place.
Yeah.
Number 2 is a 6-week lead time.
Oh gosh.
So I've now sold, in 1 week I sold all of the stock. 3 months worth of stock, gone. Now I've got a 6-week lead time before I can get my stock in. So I go to the supplier and say, listen, I sold out, I urgently need stock. So what does he say? Now he's got the leverage. I don't have a contract in place.
Yeah.
He triples the price of the stock if I want it now. I'll do it for you, but it's going to cost you 3 times as much. Well, that, of course, eliminates all of our profits. So you can imagine at that point, I mean, it nearly put us under.
Yeah.
I mean, we came this
For
close.
sure.
I
Yeah.
found another company in Joburg. They reformulated all the products because I didn't own the formulas as well.
Yeah.
Great. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah.
So I got them to reformulate the products. They, wonderful guys, a company called Brunel, they sorted out our problems. They got our stock to us quickly, and they saved our bacon. But you can imagine the
Yeah.
the problem with not being able to deal with the ramp up quickly. So so the fourth thing I would have in the agreement is if we need the stock, that I can get it fast. That
Yes.
you will drop everything and create stock for me.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with your suppliers, it
Yeah.
needs to be, those things absolutely need to be in play so that you know that you can scale. Now, if you don't think you can scale, or if you're in any doubt that you can scale, as the demand comes through, then you shouldn't be in multi-level marketing. Because this is a business that grows incredibly fast. And if you can't cope with the rapid growth, then stay out of it. You know, I spoke to a client late last week when I was up in Joburg. I went and spoke to a client there, and I said to them, listen, you don't understand how this business explodes,
Yeah.
and you think you can cope with it, but I can hear from what you're saying right now that you don't have a clue. Yeah, but we're using this big company. They've been doing it for this one and that one. You don't have a clue. You don't have a clue, because this thing can go. You can have 100,000 people phoning the call center in 30 days. And if you don't break that down into, say, each call is 5 minutes, how many call center people you need to deal with that?
Yeah.
You don't have a clue. So even these big call centers have never seen anything like the kind of growth you get out of multi-level marketing.
Yeah.
And so, so I would say that if you can't scale, stay out of it.
Okay.
Don't get in.
So you assess it on both on product or your service delivery or whatever you're doing to service that sale. What happens if it is a call center? Let's use an example. Would you do something like outsourcing another call center in order to scale?
Yeah, you have to have so
Some sort of
it's all
plan in
about
place.
fulfillment.
Right.
Okay, so the question you have to ask yourself is, if this thing, you need to just take it there and say, okay, let's say a weekly basis. Let's say we double our sales every week for the next 6 months, which we have clients who do that.
Yep.
Okay, let's see where we are going to be in the next 6 months if we double our sales. Then ask yourself, can we cope with those? Okay, and if we have any spikes, if that thing shortens, can we cope? And you need to ask yourself that question and be honest with yourself. You know, if your manufacturer is some tin pot little backyard guys doing it on, manually, well, there's no ways you're going to scale. You have to be with a supplier that will provide you with small runs in the beginning, but who will have the ability to scale fast. And then you have to be able to get the product into the country or out of the manufacturer onto your warehouse floor fast.
Yeah.
So that it's about fulfillment. Can you fulfill the orders when they come in floods? And that's what most people coming to the MLM space don't understand. They come in with the retail hat on or the traditional business hat.
Right.
They've never seen the kind of growth. When you tell them about the growth, they don't believe you. They think they can control it. Well, you can't. Mary goes out and tells her 10 friends who sell her 10 friends who tell her 10 friends. Before you know it, you've got 10,000 people all selling your product. And it just...
Yeah. Sure.
There's the favorite
is.
The business goes vertical.
Yeah.
And when it goes vertical, if you can scale, you feel like you've won the jackpot, because that's what it feels like. I mean, we were shipping half a ton of bubble bath a day. Now,
Wow.
that's enough bubble bath to froth up Table Bay. That is a shed load of bubble bath. We were shipping half a ton a day. And I mean, that's bubble bath. You can walk into Pick and Pay and buy bubble bath. We were shipping half a ton a day. But we needed to be able to scale. And that, as I said, nearly sunk our boat. So, believing, first of all, that this business can go vertical, and then preparing for that. Obviously, you have your fallback position. You say to the guy, if it doesn't work, we're going to sell X amount.
Yeah.
But if the thing works, you need to be able to deliver.
Sure.
And if you can't deliver, there's 100 other manufacturers out there desperate for your business who will deliver for you.
Yeah. Okay. I would like to add a little golden nuggets at the end of this. I know we've had our 5 points.
The bonus.
The bonus round.
Bonus round.
It leads on from this previous discussion we've had here about the products and servicing and the scalability is that of capital.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the capital, raising the capital. If you can't raise the capital, there are other options. Let's just dive into that a little bit more.
Okay, so the first thing is, what capital do you need? Okay, now this is one of the few businesses in the world that you can genuinely bootstrap. You know, if you go into retail, the guys want you to put 1 million units on the floor straight away. They want you to pay for listings and shelf space and all of that. That's an upfront cash investment. Whereas with our business, you can bootstrap it. So when I started Acorn Kids, prime example, I bootstrapped Acorn Kids. So at the time, I needed to sell my car to buy stock. But the key thing there is I needed to have enough cash personally to put food on my table and a roof over my head for a period of 12 months so that I wasn't personally under pressure, because you can't work on a business like this if you personally are under pressure.
Yes.
So I was very fortunate at the time. I had an Audi A6, which I managed to get good money for, and I bought my stock and I used the balance of the cash to live on. And so I was able to bootstrap the business. In other words, if I sold 1 bubble bath, I'd buy 2.
Yes.
When I sold 2, I'd buy 4. When I sold 4, I'd buy 8. So I built up my stock literally on a weekly basis to keep pace with, and I used the cash flow from the company to do that. Now, the beauty is I didn't need the cash flow to live on. Because if I'd needed the cash flow to live on, we would have been sunk.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have been able to maintain the growth of the business, pushing all of the cash back in. So I think that the least you should go into this with, the absolute bare minimum, is you need to have enough money to sustain you and your family personally for at least 12 months.
Yeah.
Okay? You've got to be able to pay whatever overheads you have, and you've got to be able to sustain yourself for a 12-month period. Now, you don't need to start one of these businesses. You don't need fancy offices, because 99.9% of this happens in coffee shops.
Right.
So when I started Acorn Kids, I would meet everybody in coffee shops or at their home, because it's an in-home, belly-to-belly personal business, or online. So I didn't need fancy offices. You know, you could keep the stock in the garage. You know, you can keep your overheads very, very low. But if you don't have enough cash to buy your initial stock and to provide yourself an income for a period of time, then it's not. Then I would just stay out of it.
Okay.
Now, obviously, if you're a company with deep pockets and long arms, then that completely sets you apart. When you're bootstrapping the business, you grow naturally, very slowly.
Yes.
If you've got cash, then you can do a launch. You can launch the business properly.
Right.
And obviously, you can get massive growth. We've got a project that we're doing in the UK next year, and our goal is to have 100,000 people within 120 days. So, but there you've got cash. So the business, you can rocket the business out of the blocks and get up to 100,000 people. And if you're doing just £100 a month in sales, then you've got millions of pounds worth of sales going out there. 10 million pounds worth of sales a month coming out just like that. Is that correct? 100 times 10,000?
It is, yes, 1 million.
100
times 10,000.
Now, come on, guys.
It comes to the end of the Facebook Live events, and you go, when do numbers come?
Anyway, I think it's 10 million, but at the moment my brain is soggy.
Yeah, that's right.
So the bottom line is, if you've got the cash to do a proper launch, you can ramp the business up really fast.
Yeah.
If you don't have the cash, you need to be able to sustain yourself for at least 12 months, because it's going to take you about 12 months to bootstrap the business. So kind of that would be my final sort of reason to stay out of multi-level marketing, is you don't have the capital to sustain yourself. And we've unfortunately, very sadly, had several clients in this year alone who've come to us, actually haven't had the cash to sustain themselves.
Yeah.
And after 3 or 4 months, because they don't get fast traction, they bomb out. Now, I'm going to just take this back to Acorn Kids again. In our first month, I signed up 2 people. Whole month, signed up 2 people. So I was super emotional. I thought, wow, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
And each of those people signed up, did 1,000 rands with sales. So I did 2,000 rands with the sales in my first month. Now I needed 50,000 rand to live on, so that wasn't good.
Yeah.
In month 2, each of them signed up 2 people, so I only had 4.
Yeah.
In month 3, I had 8.
Yeah.
In month 4, I had 16.
Mm.
5 months down the road, I only had 32 active members. So you can imagine what's happening. Now, at that point, things started to take off, because then I got 64.
Yes.
And then we started to accelerate.
Mm.
So I went to about 250, 260, and then I went to 1,000. And so suddenly we went in like 6 or 7 months, we suddenly were doing that situation where we sold 3 months of stock
Right.
in
Yeah,
1
in a
week,
week,
because
yeah.
suddenly we got this absolute catastrophic growth. Now you've got to be able to see yourself through that. You know, if you 6 months in, you've only got 32 members, and you haven't got money to sustain yourself, then how do you keep going? You know, so if you're bootstrapping the business, you got to have capital.
Sure.
If you've got real capital, then obviously you can grow your business incredibly fast.
Yeah.
And you can get up to the big numbers. I mean, we've done it. One of our big clients, we got them to 800 million in billable minutes in their second year.
Yeah.
But of course, they had
All the
they had
capital.
infinite cash.
Sure.
You know, there was no shortage of capital there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Last reason to stay
Brilliant.
out.
What a
Bonus reason. You
what
got
a-
no money.
what a lovely golden nugget. Richard, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. So for everyone out there as company owners, those are the 5 reasons why to avoid multi-level marketing. And I think we've highlighted some important reasons that when assessing this industry and wanting to launch a business, take that into account and assess honestly. I would advise, and then commit. So we'll be here. Richard, thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Every week, love it with you. And for everyone out there, thank you so much for dedicating your time to Netready. We love having you here. We've got our 4 channels, which is on Facebook, Netready MLM. We've also got our LinkedIn page, which is Netready MLM Software. We've also got our YouTube channel. Please, we're trying to up our subscribers there. There's some valuable content on there, which we'd love you to subscribe to. Hit the little bell so you get notifications each time we upload new content. We've also got our podcasting channel, which is on Spotify. So thank you so much for dedicating your time. We look forward to seeing you next week. Cheers.